Okay, welcome back to our study of the end times as we work our way through the entire New Testament. We're in Matthew chapter 24 still, and this time I want to take a look at one verse that we've actually skipped over. You may have noticed, if you're a very adept viewer, it's verse number 35 of Matthew 24, and this is a great verse. And this one is not a mysterious verse. This one, thank God, we can understand it and not be scratching our heads so much. Jesus said, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." And so how can you interpret that? I think it means exactly what it says. One day there's going to be a new heavens and a new earth. And one of the primary characteristics of that new earth is going to be an earth where righteousness dwells. Why? Because only those who have passed the test of faith, a living faith that's illustrated by an obedience to the commandments of Christ, only those people will be permitted on that paradise, the new earth. And as beautiful as this earth is right now, in the places where, it has not been fouled by mankind, can you only imagine how beautiful the new heavens, the new earth is going to be? It's going to be the Garden of Eden all over again, all over the world. And if there's one thing we want to do, is we want to be there. Okay? And so how do you be there? It's not because you have your eschatology correct and you're able to argue with the preterists and the futurists and the half preterists and the partial preterists. No, it's because you're obeying the commandments of Christ, living out your faith. Not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven, Jesus said, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. So that's the preeminent thing. And so all of this study of the end times that we're doing and thinking about these coming things and the end of the world, it all serves a higher purpose than just to fill our brains with interesting knowledge. It should inspire our hearts to live, in anticipation of that day. So align our lives that we're ready to stand before him. And if there's one theme that is the overarching general theme of this entire passage, Matthew 24:25, it is make sure you're ready at all costs, no matter what. That's the important thing. Make sure you're ready. And how can you be sure you're ready? You're doing the will of God. And that's going to become more clear as we continue on here, okay? So Jesus' word will never ever pass away. I love that. I love that solid stuff. Okay, now we jump down to verse number 37 as Jesus gives a little more insight as to what it's going to be like in those days prior to his coming. And sadly, most people are not going to be thinking about the end of the world. Most people are not going to be thinking about the return of Christ. Most people are not going to be thinking about, are they ready to stand before God? They're going to be completely unprepared. And you just think that as we read the various descriptions of the tribulation of that time, alluded to, of course, here in the Olivet Discourse, but also in Revelation, oh my goodness, you'd think that people would be sparked to seek God, but it seems like there's very little sparking for people to seek God during those final days. Verse number 38, "For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark. And they did not understand until the flood came and took them all away. So will the coming of the Son of Man be." Can you see that above everything else is a warning once again? Don't be unready, because most people will be caught by surprise. And Jesus does not want the elect, his followers, to be among those who are surprised or unready. That's the whole point, isn't it? Okay? It's like the days before the flood during the time of Noah. There was a testimony that God had through Noah. We all know the story. It's a wonderful story. Probably everybody thought Noah was crazy all those years building that huge ark and not even getting concerned when animals start entering that ark and then the door shut and so forth. I mean, just mocking and going about their daily lives as if no reason to be concerned, and just another day like every other day. And what's the end result? Because they weren't ready, they all perished in the flood of Noah. That's the message here. He goes on. verse number 40. Verse number 39. And they did not understand, again, until the flood came and took them all away. So will the coming of the Son of Man be. Look at this, verse number 40. Then there will be two men in the field. One will be taken, one will be left. Two women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken, and one will be left. So here's one question that folks have. Who's the one taken? Who's the one left? Well, in the flood of Noah, you could look at it either way. Jesus had just used the words that the flood came and took them all away. So the ones taken away are the ones who perished. They were taken away by the flood. And so if you apply that and contextually to the next couple of verses about the two men in the field, one's taken away, the two women grinding in the field, one's taken away, it seemed like you don't want to be the one taken away if it's taken away just like the flood took them away. However, I'm not sure we have warrant, to draw that conclusion. I can understand why someone would come to that conclusion, but in the greater context, we know that Jesus already talked about when he comes that, the angels will gather the elect from the four corners of the wind, okay? So there's a taking away, obviously. We know from biblical context, there's going to be a rapture. There's going to be a catching away of the saints and so forth. And again, I'm not in the category of people that believes that happens 7 years before, the second coming of Christ. I don't believe there's two comings. I believe there's one coming. We've talked about that a little bit. So I'm gonna say in this case, it was the one taken away was the one who wanted to be taken away, to be carried away in the rapture. That's my opinion. If you don't agree with me, I still love you. Okay, next time I want to answer another question from these same verses that is evidently raised. Can't wait for that. I'll see you next time.
HeavenWord 7 is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you.